This episode of I Am is featuring the Fish Water Park.
In the stillness, hear the whisper, I am El Shaddai, your guiding light. Through the shadows, I will lift you. In the darkness, I'll ignite your fight. From the ashes, I will raise you. With compassion, I'll heal your heart. Remember, my love will embrace you. In every tale, you'll find your part.
Welcome to I Am. This is a show about our life, our imagination, and the infinite possibilities. We have inspiring stories about people and places and the ultimate grace. No matter the obstacles you face, when you live right by our Creator, you live good. This show puts dreams into action, thus separating us from our fears. When we live with the right purpose and confront our weaknesses, all things are possible. Today, we explore the theme, I am the church and I'm broken. The episode where we explore the challenges, purpose, and enduring importance of the church in our world today. I'm Charles, your host, and joining me are my amazing co-hosts, Jerry and Chuck, and our infamous producer, Carrie. Hey, guys, how are y'all doing?
Hey,
Wonderful,
Charles.
thank you.
Got to tell you, I'm so very excited for today's conversation. It's such a crucial topic. Why we need the church, what its role should be, especially in a time when so many people feel disillusioned with religion and they're just leaving in droves.
Absolutely, Carrie. The idea that the church has a divine purpose and it can't be broken is something we'll need to unpack. Also, we'll touch on the founding principles of the United States, separation of church and state, and how these ideas interact with our understanding of our own faith. So let's dive in.
We need the church. Hey, Chuck, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about the church today is the notion that it's broken and outdated. But I think we need to ask, why was the church created in the first place? And why do we still need it? What do you think?
Charles, that's a great starting point. But look, the church was not a human invention. It was God's idea. In the Bible, we see that church is meant to be a community of believers, a family united by faith, hope, and love. It's a place where we gather to worship, to support one another, and to grow our relationships with God. As Jesus said in Matthew 16:18, on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will never overcome it. That's a promise that the church will endure even through difficult times.
And that's such an important reminder, you guys. The church is meant to be more than just a building or an organization. It's a living community that reflects God's love and truth to the world. But there's a big difference between the ideal of the church and what we sometimes see today. A lot of people feel disconnected because of negative experiences or because they feel the church has lost its relevance.
Right, Jerry, but that doesn't change the fact that the church has a divine purpose. It's supposed to be a light in the darkness, a place where people can find hope and community. And honestly, in times like these, when so many are feeling lost and alone, we need that more than ever. Declining Christianity in America is a huge challenge, but it's also an opportunity to refocus on what the church is truly meant to be.
I got to tell you, this is getting so good. Let's take a second, come back, get right into it. This episode of I Am is featuring the Fish Water Park. The Fish is a 70-acre faith-based family water park and entertainment venue that delivers a first-class social experience, which at its core resonates Christian values. Regardless of where you are in your faith journey, the tagline, Go Fish, embodies an invitation to the atmosphere of a safe and fun place to eat, swim, play, worship, fellowship, and grow while building lasting memories along with others. The Fish is not open yet, but is in the works. If this sounds fun, exciting, or refreshing, you can help. Be sure to visit The Fish at www.thefish.life to find out how you can get involved today. And be sure to tell them Charles sent you.
Okay, gentlemen, it's going to get a little dicey now. The separation of church and state.
One of the common misconceptions is that the founding fathers wanted a complete separation of church and state. But is that true?
No. The phrase separation of church and state isn't actually in the Constitution. The Establishment Clause prevents the government from establishing a national religion or interfering with religious practices, but it doesn't mean God or Christian morality was meant to be entirely absent from public life. The Founding Fathers recognized the value of religious principles, especially Christian morality, in shaping our nation's values.
Exactly. They wanted to ensure religious freedom, so no single church would dominate, but they didn't intend to create a society where God was completely excluded from the public square. They believed that a moral society informed by biblical values was essential to maintaining freedom and justice. This is what made us unique, guys. This is what was meant to be that peace that created a unique nation that served as a beacon of light for the rest of the world. It was guided by God's principles.
And that's such an important point, Charles. And today, as we see a decline in people identifying as Christians, we're also seeing a shift in how those fundamental values are being interpreted and applied. We can't forget that God was seen as the source of our rights and freedoms.
The decline of Christianity. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Recent studies show a dramatic drop from around 90% of adults identifying as Christian in the 90s to just 64% today. If that trend continues, America will become a minority Christian country by 2045. How do you think that decline is affecting the role of the church?
Well, it's definitely making things more challenging. I mean, a lot of people have turned away from the church because they feel it's out of touch with modern times or even harmful. I mean, social media is full of stories with false prophets and pastors who seem to be more interested in power, or self-proclaimed pastors, right, who want more money and influence and followers and likes than actually serving the communities around them. I mean, let's be honest. It's understandable why people will become or might become disillusioned. In fact, it's something that Jesus warned about. But at the same time, we can't forget the core purpose of the church, and that's to share God's message of hope and redemption.
Oh, that's right, Carrie. We need to remember that the church is made up of imperfect people, but it's a symbol of God's love. The decline we're seeing is a call to action. It's an opportunity for us to rebuild the church in a way that aligns more closely with God's original vision. We need to get back to the sense of community and shared purpose we saw in the early church. Like in Acts 2:44 through 47, it speaks of this. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. This is where believers cared for each other and shared everything they had.
Yeah, and the early church was not about rituals or services. It was about living out God's love in a tangible way. First of all, leading people to Jesus, caring for the poor, welcoming the stranger, and standing up for what's right. If we want to see the church thrive again, we have to return to those roots. It starts with each of us being willing to change ourselves and our communities.
So we need the church. Okay. We know we need the church. What can we do to rebuild it?
I think it starts with a renewed focus on God's faith and love. We have to reject the things that have led people astray, like greed and self-interest, and focus on the real message of the gospel.
Getting back to the basics. The church isn't just a building or an institution, it's a community of believers. We are the church. In the Gospels of the New Testament, the church is mentioned explicitly by Jesus only twice. You know, Chuck mentioned it already once. The other time Jesus mentioned the word church was when he said he actually provides guidance on solving conflicts among believers. He instructs that if a brother sins against us and refuses to heed correction, we should bring the matter before the church. before his people. These are the only two instances, and they underscore the foundational role of the church as both a spiritual community built on the revelation of Christ and a body for resolving disputes among its members. We need to create a space where people feel welcomed and valued, where they can encounter God's love. In my opinion, the Fish Water Park we're working on is certainly a great start. It approaches the values of Christianity in a totally different way, combining the great things that come from capitalism and work for the good of other people. A flourishing business can now empower millions. I mean, wow. But we also need to hold our leaders accountable. Pastors have a responsibility to shepherd their congregations, to guide people spiritually, and to model godly character. When they fail to do that, it can have a devastating impact, and we've seen that. But it also shows us where we need to do better, right?
Definitely. Let's not forget the role that parents have in shaping the next generation. Parents need to teach their children about faith, pray with them, be examples of Christ's love. And if we want to see the church become stronger and more positive force in society, it has to start at home.
And as we take those steps to rebuild, we really should focus on the bigger picture. Remember that the church isn't just a local gathering, it's a global movement. We need to come together as believers to support each other, to share resources, to work toward a common goal, to be the light in the world and a reflection of God's love, so we can reflect the hands and feet of our head, Jesus, to those who otherwise don't know him.
As we wrap up today's episode, let's remember that the church is God's gift to us, a place where we can find community, hope, and purpose. It's not perfect, but it's essential. We can't afford to give up on it just because it's facing challenges. Instead, we should see those challenges as opportunities to grow and strengthen our faith.
You know, as believers, we really need to remember the things that Jesus specifically told us, right? You know, in Matthew 13:30, he goes through and he talks about in that entire parable about the wheat and the weeds. The fact of the matter is, there are weeds that grow up in. We talked earlier about, pastors who care more about their profits and their influence than actually the community or delivering the message. There are a lot of false teachers. In fact, Jesus and the disciples warned that there, believe it or not, are those in leadership that don't belong to him. They don't believe in him. So they teach all sorts of funny doctrines that are going to be tickling to your ear because it makes you feel good, but it's not truth. And guess what? It's leading you to error. So here's the thing. You have an obligation. You have to seek the Lord. You have to understand your role that you're supposed to play, whether it's volunteering, whether it's sharing stories, whether it's simply showing up for each other, whether we can contribute. It doesn't really matter how we do it. There's different parts of the body, which means there's different roles for each of us. But we have to make the church a place that truly reflects God's love. And let's not be afraid to have those tough conversations and to challenge each and every one of us to drive our relationship deeper with Christ, to do better.
And most importantly, let's remember that God hasn't given up on us, and he hasn't given up on the church. With his guidance, we can rebuild it into something beautiful, something that serves as a true testament to his goodness and love. So let's take that step together and keep moving forward in faith.
Move forward in faith, gentlemen. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us on I Am. We hope this conversation has offered some encouragement and insight into your own spiritual journey. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and remember, you are not alone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like our page, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Let's continue this conversation because the church matters, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, stay blessed.
The Spirit